What does it mean to be a distributed version control system? Well, every developer has a full copy. And this copy has all the history. There's no concept of a central server unless you choose to work that way. So we'll see how that works in a minute. We can choose to work with a central server, but Git doesn't impose it on us. Whereas Subversion, you push code to the server and you check out code from the server. So in Git, most operations are local. Because we have a full copy of the version of the repository, most things we do to the repository occur locally, which means there's no network. We're never waiting for the network unless we're doing a push or a pull. So it's very fast. And what else we got? Well, that's all. Let's leave that for now. There are other versions. There are other things. I suggest you read up. There's a couple of video lectures by Linus who explains why Git is so good. But this, I kind of want it to be more of a practical thing than a theory lesson. So, let's think about how we can work. One, we could be a single developer. So what that means is our computer has a copy of the repo, and that could be it. So single developer, one repo. And that's on his laptop. That's how he's developing. That's all well and good, but what happens if your laptop dies or gets stolen? This is kind of a half-way method of working with Git. So we get all the benefits of source code management, but we have no backups. So if the laptop dies, then we're out of luck. So a better way of doing this would say, okay, we've got our repo on our laptop, and then each day we're going to push changes to, I don't know, let's do something simple, and a USB flash drive. So this is our this is the copy that we work with, and then every day we push changes over to here. So this only stores a backup. So that's how we could work as a single developer. And this doesn't have to be a USB drive. This is just an example. This could be a server somewhere. But the point is, we only ever work on our local copy and then push changes to it. So that's how we'd work as a single developer, and most of my work is done using this method. I work on either my laptop or my desktop computer, and I push changes to a server somewhere. And this is kind of the central server idea of how Subversion works. So that's how a single developer can work with Git, and it works pretty well. So we could have multiple developers. And how these could work is each developer has a full checked out working copy. So this is dev 1 and this is dev 2. Now, if you really wanted to, they could just pull changes from each other. So, and that would work fine. All you need is 2 boxes set up. As long as dev 2 has access to dev 1's box and vice versa, then you could just pull changes directly from the other person. So that's one way we could work, but it's probably not the best way, and it's probably not the way most people are used to. So the other way is we've got a central server. And each developer push code changes to the server, and also pull changes from the server. So at the end of the day, dev 1 has done some work. He pushes the code to the server. Next morning, dev 2 does a pull from the server to get the changes. So this central server idea is kind of how most non-distributed version controls work. And it's how a lot of group projects work, like this. So if you're thinking about that, if this is how Subversion works, why do we not just use Subversion? And the reason is you get some cool advantages by each developer having a full history rather than just a checked out copy. So another way of, this is a very common way of working. That's my phone, just ignore that. So another way we could do it with multiple developers is have a benevolent dictator. So how we have here is the low-level devs all working on their own box. And then we've got some boss of the project. And then these guys might pull from, so dev 1 might pull from dev 2 and dev 3, or however this wants to work. But at the end of the day, the dictator, this guy here, oops, I shouldn't have done that. So this guy here might pull changes from the other devs. So it's not a developer pushing to a central server. The dictator's going, okay, this version of the repository is in a state where it's good enough to be put into my master branch. So he pulls the change in. This is not working for me. There we go. So this is different to the central server model in that this dictator is responsible. And this can work on many levels. This is a very simplified version of how the Linux kernel development works. How that works is every developer who's working on a small part has their own copy that they pull from the dictator, but then they might not push to... Oh, that's the wrong color. So there might be another guy here, which is kind of like a henchman. So these guys push to here, and then the dictator, once he's decided that something's good enough to go from here, he pulls from this guy, but never talks to dev 2 ever, and never talks to dev 3. So we can get this crazy hierarchical model. So we might have another box in here and another box. So this is this guy, dev 1's private machine, and he pushes to his public server, and then some other guy pulls from him, and then finally that gets put into the master branch. So we can have this crazy hierarchical model for development, and this is a bit chaotic, but it works really well. This is, you know, a really rough approximation of how Linux kernel development works, where Linus has the master copy, and everyone, he pulls in patches from elsewhere. So that's kind of the different roles that Git can play. My point in bringing this up is that in Subversion or CVS, we have to have this server, and then all developers have to work with that server. In Git, we can work however we want. We can choose to have this central server model, but it's not imposed on us by the version control system. It's entirely up to us. So with that, that's enough theory for now. What I might do now is just stop this video here, and then in the next video we'll break into some actual putting Git into practice. Okay? So thanks a lot.